Well, good Saturday morning, and welcome to Hobby Hotline on Bench Clear Media, episode 232. I'm joined by Adam, here is for sale, and Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights, and I'm Danny. Good morning, everybody. How you guys doing?
Great.
Adam, how have you been?
Yeah, pretty good. Just kind of starting some stuff on YouTube, doing a little bit more on my own channel, and then trying to do some more clips and stuff here for Hobby Hotline. Working on the back end of our YouTube and stuff like that. So just doing
Well,
everything that I can basically with
I was
content.
about to give you credit. Adam has been absolutely killing it on the backside. So thank you for all the work you're doing on Hobby Hotline. This is a group and a team effort, and that's one of the neat things about it is you got a lot of people coming together. So thank you for all of that. Couple topics excited to talk about today, and I don't know what order to go in after last night, and my bracket kind of blew up. I think with everybody else's. But it led me to wonder, with between NILs and Fanatics and everything else that's going on, are we going to see a set of cards like the World Cup soccer set? Are we going to see cards for the players before the tournament or after the tournament where they're going to have real value? Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I would. I think with like you were saying with NIL, I definitely would like to see more, NCAA basketball cards. Like I feel like that's sort of the next iteration of like what Topps is doing. We've seen the Bowman Chrome U set. We've seen like they've done like the Topps or the Bowman Next Topps Now set with some basketball players. We have the Topps Chrome McDonald's All American set coming out soon. So I would imagine that there's something coming down the pipeline. I guess it'll be interesting. Like, I don't know how they'll be able to do it when it comes to like March Madness, if if it'll have to be like after the fact that they come out with the set, or if it's like because like with it, like, there's always like the snubs that don't make it to the NCAA tournament. So it's like tough for them to probably quickly turn around a set like the World Cup. We kind of know who's making the World Cup. And then same with like, the college football playoff. If they come out with some set like that, it's probably a little bit tougher to turn around a set as quickly as maybe people would be interested in it. But I think if it included some of the big names that are going to be in the upcoming draft, like doing it maybe like later on, like I guess it would be tough. But at the same time, it's like I think that there is something that could be done there. Maybe it's like a Topps Now product. Maybe it's a Bowman set or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I think I would like to see. I'm always a fan, especially now with NIL, like how Topps can come out with the license set. Like I'm always a fan of adding some sort of new maybe fan base into the hobby, because like a lot of the basketball programs, like they probably don't have like pro teams, so they maybe don't have these pro players that they can collect their cards of. And also I think with college too, like, when you're a fan of a player in college, you kind of follow them most of the time throughout their career, depending on how diehard you are. But like, and it's always changing too. That's kind of the other thing. So yeah, I would like to see some sort of set. It'll be interesting to see how they would be able to execute it, but I think it would be kind of cool.
What do you think, Dr. Beckett?
Well, two things. One, my friends that are getting real involved with college sports recruiting, there's promises made to these athletes when they come in, and they're literally guaranteed, in many cases, 5-figure or 6-figure, or even 7-figure NIL money without any regard to where that's going to come from. They're just guaranteed they're going to get, and I don't know if it's coming from a booster or whatever for a personal appearance kind of thing. But so having said that, when these young basketball players get these guarantees, this is a way to monetize it, with other people's money and not from the boosters. So these things have to be in the works. If they're not contemplating memorabilia and card stuff, they're really missing out. And so I think I hope something's in the works because it's in the news. Now, having said that, if you're a newspaper person, if something happens last night, how many of the papers this morning are not covering Purdue's upset by Farley Dickinson? It's all going to be in there with photos. Okay, well, how is it different from a card set? They could do paper sets, pictures, ink on cardstock, I don't know that they can turn autographs and game used overnight, but they literally could slice and dice, uh, because the screen grabs are there for photography of some of those blocks at the end of the game. You know, all the Farley Dickinson guys were just playing at hyperspeed, and all the Purdue guys were just lost heart. They were doing slow mo. Anyway, you could capture photos from that, have it produced this morning, and pre-sold today to be shipped today or tomorrow. Again, I just don't know if that's going to be of great interest without the autographs, or maybe you'd have a chance to get an autograph that would be redeemed at a later date. So I think the NIL people are missing the boat if they're not hitting the memorabilia and card market hard. And again, it's anything that's going to get attention and be newsworthy is going to be good for our whole industry. That's my thought.
Absolutely. And I wonder, Adam, to your point of how many teams, will get in, and Dr. Becker, maybe you can speak to the logistics. Couldn't they print 100 teams and just eat a couple? Would that be such a monetary loss, or is that something absorbable?
Well, it's everything in the hobby is counter instinctual. So let's say last month they get releases from all the teams that they think might be in March Madness, and as we know, only 68 got in, and 4 of them were very briefly involved. So they got 68 teams. They picked 100. Okay, well, like I said, they don't need to do it in advance unless they're going to do autographs and game used and things like that. And,
Right.
and probably not even game used, but player worn, let's say. They could do this in advance.
Yeah,
Here's
we
the
can't.
issue. When the 68 teams get through, would they throw the other 32 teams in the dumpster? I don't think so. I
think also teams make the NIT as well.
I know, but they'd be short prints. I mean, they're not going to throw away assets. Now, if it's a paper card of a player that didn't do anything, a team didn't make it, maybe those go in the dumpster. But any game used or autograph stuff from a player, like Adam says, they've gotten the NIT or just a good player that might be drafted. And what we found out from Farley Dickinson is that you shouldn't be picking favorites in advance. You've got players there that you would not have thought. The one guy wasn't even a starter.
Yeah. Let's catch up on some hellos. We got Rex in the shop, the card shop. Good morning to you guys. We have Frank. Good morning, gentlemen. Michael, pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Mark, I think we all agree with that. We could listen to Dr. Beckett. I don't know if you need to put the amount of years in there. And so welcome to everybody in the chat. And feel free, the link is at the bottom of the screen, and I will put it in the chat also. Korean Cardboard, good morning, gentlemen, to you as well.
You mean good evening?
Right. Yeah, well, I don't know. We're going by the name. Maybe he's just in Iowa.
Maybe.
So, okay. So my feeling on these cards is I think at some point, like prospecting, and I always look at the Bowman first. There is a market for prospecting somehow at some level. The question is does it need to be in the pro uniform for sports? Because college baseball cards don't really sell or are not popular. So do we feel that we need the pro uniform? And I think most of the sets that don't have the pro uniform don't touch in price, and popularity. Adam, is that kind of what you would agree with?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I think the one thing that I was just thinking about that might be a little bit tough with like the NCAA tournament is like how much do people care about the NCAA tournament after the tournament's over? Like if they were to once the 68 teams are in, if they were to make the cards of the 68 teams and then the set were to be released. I mean, maybe it could be like, you could do like a pre-order set, like it could be pre-ordered. So that way you don't really have to worry about like after the fact, like trying to get people to buy the set. Or maybe it's like, maybe it could be like a moment set, like a Tops Now, like where, there's a Fairleigh Dickinson upset card, or like there's a Princeton upset card or something along those lines, like a moments card, like maybe like an insert set or something. Maybe that's, you could figure out a way to market that. But I do also think, like you were saying, it may be a little bit tougher I think we're shifting in a way, like with the NIL, like, and with more companies being able to use the likeness of college teams. So, I mean, maybe things could shift a little bit, but I think, as of right now, I do think that that pro uniform is a little bit different, but I do think just from like right now, I think with NIL, like we're seeing college products come out of players in college right now for kind of the first time. Like there's probably been certain sets here and there, but like from a macro perspective, like the Bowman Chrome set, like all of those players, none of them have been drafted yet. Most of the Panini college sets come out after the players get drafted. So it's like, it'll be interesting to see if there's a big shift or if it kind of stays the same and people like don't really care as much, or if there's a shift.
Dr. Beckett, do you care if they're in a uniform?
Well, no, they're worth less, but not worthless. They're just worth less. But it's still, if it's an early card of a guy that goes on to great acclaim, it'll be worth something. It won't be worth maybe as much, but who knows? Maybe that could change. The other thing is, I don't know why somebody isn't figuring out that, what would have that been? 40 years ago, the Star Company came along. Mm-hmm. And they're much maligned in some circles, but really, it's a lot easier to do team set bags in terms of distribution. And that would work really well for, perhaps with some random chase element in the bags. The chase element in the Star Company basketball is you don't know what the centering is in the middle of the bag. You could try to shimmy it and try to figure it out, but you really can't. Right. So somebody could do something like that, because the Star Company, that guy was really pretty smart. It's way easier to print, distribute, manufacture, set it all up with these team set bags. And, the same player, if you're looking for Fairleigh Dickinson sets or cards, are you going to buy a whole box and get one card in the box that's somebody, or would you want to buy the team set? So I think, and then the team set royalties go straight. Again, there's a little bit of a March Madness fantasy aspect to it. And with your bracket, is that maybe there's some kind of redemption thing like the MVP promotion that Topps did, that whoever wins, those sets are redeemable for something.
See, that would be great. That would make every team a chase. Not every. Yeah, right. And because you have your alumni base. Yeah. Right. You have the alumni base for the Fairleigh Dickinsons, who are going to buy them regardless of the win, and then would buy them like crazy today. And then, of course, everybody else. I'm a University of Maryland fan, and everybody's convinced their team's going to win it all. So, I like buying the team bags for the minor league teams for baseball. Also, same idea. You just in the team store, you get that little pack, and I've got a Jackson Holiday minor league card, from an off. I don't know who prints it, but it might be TCMA, or I don't know if they do it anymore. But
it goes in the college bookstore. There's a lot of avenues for a single focused set, and the alums and things like that. So,
all right. So for all the schools,
big giant, again, same thing. Non-pack pulled cards generally are worth less. They're not worthless, but they're worth less than something that you're taking a chance to buy a pack, and maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't.
It maybe even could be like Topps could sell those team packs like as like a print on demand set, like then they could use images maybe from the NCAA tournament. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's images that they could get as soon as they get those 68 teams. They have like 3 or 4 days to kind of put together something potentially. And I mean, unfortunately, like if you're, a Purdue fan, or if you're like an Arizona fan, you may not want to buy that set because you're devastated that your team lost. But at the same time, if you're a Princeton or you're a Fairleigh Dickinson, you may be running out to buy that because you're like, I want to commemorate this important moment in sports,
But
or pre-order.
If we did Danny's idea that in advance They took orders for 100 teams, whether they were going to get in March Madness or NIT or whatever. They took orders for those 100 teams, and Farley Dickinson, there were only pre-orders for 37 sets, which is the aunts and uncles and the players and the super fans. And so you've got 37 sets now to go. And Purdue, there's 10,000 sets that were made. And so you've got a built-in thing there but it has to be, you have to pre-order it before the games, just like you got to fill out your bracket before the game. I think you get some excitement there then, because now they say how many brackets are still viable for perfection. Maybe close to zero. With a 15 and a 16 both winning, who would have picked both of those?
And if one player comes out of it, that would be an extremely valuable card. Right. Yeah, that's cool. So Topps would have an idea of the top 30 teams. Well, I guess that's an interesting point. The way they do it with the conferences, in some ways, it's almost easier to predict some of the smaller conferences than the bigger ones. So, you could pre-print, I think a lot of the teams. Okay, right. So
well, you'd have to, because today is the demand.
Exactly.
If you wait until tomorrow or Monday, let's say for sure, either Farley Dickinson is going to be and Princeton are still going to be news, or they're going to be an asterisk of a historical footnote of an amazing upset, 2 amazing upsets.
Yeah, and Kevin says, like Steph Curry with Davidson, perfect example. Can you imagine if that card would have been available? It would have been like crazy. Michael says you could take the autos and transfer those to next year's NBA set as insert rookie RPAs is cross marketing. It's a great idea for the guys that'll make the NBA. One of the challenges of the NCAA tournament is very few of the guys are actually going to make the NBA. So that's why giving them a card is kind of cool. But it leads me to another tournament where not everybody is professional, and that's the World Baseball Classic. And I was lucky enough to go Tuesday night and see my first WBC game. I saw Israel face the Dominican Republic. Let me tell you something. The crowd was unbelievable. I've never had so much fun and excitement at a baseball game outside of my personal team's playoff game. So, it leads me to the same thought. How popular is the World Baseball Classic going to be long term? And Adam, you had a great thought on this. And is this ever going to be an item that affects card prices, or will the cards for the WBC ever become popular?
Yeah, I think the tournament probably would have been a little bit, which also, first of all, it's the most watched baseball classic, I think, of all time. Like, I think that statistic came out the other day. Like, the pool play had the most viewers, but probably because it was like on prime time a lot of the time. And then it was almost like the World Cup, where there was just like games the whole day. Like, I think a lot of the games that were in Japan were in like the early morning, afternoon. And then some of the like West Coast games were late at night. And then some of the games that were in Miami were like midnight. So it's, or like 7-ish. So it's like, there was a much easier opportunity for people to watch those games for this tournament. I also think that like if the tournament the last time around hadn't been canceled, this one probably would have been more popular. And I just think overall, like it's kind of a similar situation. Like, Topps is coming out with the Topps Now World Baseball Classic cards. I would be interested to see sort of what happens to those cards if they're popular in the future, or what happens with them.
And speaking of which, good morning all. Hi, all the way from Juarez, Mexico, Antonio. Well, Mexico pulled off a nice victory last night. Dr. Beckett, what do you think? Is World Baseball Classic ever going to carry over into regular baseball collecting?
I hope so. I mean, I'm in favor of more things that are newsworthy. I think the problem with the World Baseball Classic is just it's the timing. It's right now people are not quite. I mean, it's March, but it's not, if they were All-Star break or something, to where it would be when people are really, really thinking about baseball. They're thinking about, Grapefruit League baseball, in some cases. So I think that's problematic. Around the world, though, I think it's cool. I think it's great. And I hope I'm bullish on the Cards. I mean, it's the only Cards of some of these guys.
And there's a lot of prospects, and I think that's one of the cool things is seeing some of the prospects against some of the all stars, and guys really making a name for themselves or having a chance to play competition that they would never have a chance during the season or even maybe in spring training. And Antonio says, up here in Mexico, card collecting is going real up. I bet Mexico has knocked out a bunch of teams. Now, if I'm an Edwin Diaz fan, maybe a little bit more, hesitant. Now that could happen anywhere. That could happen in basketball with the Dream Team. That could happen, in the World Cup. I mean, we've seen guys get injured there. But is that a reason to avoid it, or is that just happenstance?
It cannot happen at the NBA All-Star Game or the NFL Pro Bowl. I don't think. And again, I don't like that trend. So a casualty that's very disappointing, but it could happen anytime. So I hope these guys play hard. That's what sports is supposed to be about, giving your best.
And Adam, you made a comment off air that it wasn't even during the game; it was part of the celebration.
Yeah, it was a freak accident. Like I don't. It's you can't really. It's hard to compare it to anything. It's like it's like you hear like during the NBA playoffs like a while ago, like probably a decade ago, like Rajon Rondo said he slipped in the shower, or Marcus Smart, excuse me, and he like hurt his hand. It's like it's the same sort of thing. Like it's if they have that celebration 100 more times, he's not going to get injured. So it's like, and then you look at like a same player on the Mets, like he got injured sliding into second base in a spring training game. Like, so, the conversation I think of if they should have it is obviously, yes, they should have it. And it's like, I think it's good for the sport. I think it increases the, I guess Shohei Ohtani has always been sort of this enigma and this, superstar talent, but it's like, I think he on a global stage right now, he's really showing that he's probably going to sign like almost $1 billion contract when it's time for him to be a free agent. Like, and I just think that like, I think one cool thing actually that came out, it was like Ohtani hit the home run and then all the Japanese fans were like passing the ball around and taking pictures. I mean, that was like super cool. Obviously that would never happen in the United States. The second person that got the ball would run to their car with it probably, but like, I think that shows like it's a cool thing that happened at the stadium with Ohtani. And I mean, I think he is like, I don't know like what it's going to take for him to maybe be one of the best players of all time, but it's like he is every single season. It seems like he keeps outdoing himself, and it's amazing to see. And I mean, it's obviously somebody that I'm, rooting for. And we'll see sort of what happens with free agency. He may sign like the biggest contract in free agency of all time. Like we'll see. It's going to be probably pretty crazy.
I will say that the only piece of merchandise my sons bought at the game was one of my sons bought a Shohei Ohtani Japanese jersey T-shirt. And he never wanted the Shohei on the Angels. So I found that very interesting that he loved the country and playing for country. And so, I think that's a big part of it for a lot of these players. I hear them talking about, they're just as excited to win the World Baseball Classic as they might be for the World Series. So to Dr. Beckett's point about playing hard, I think, some of them definitely care tremendously. But I like growing the game worldwide. I think, and Dr. Beckett, to your point earlier, growing the game worldwide, I think is the best part of the World Baseball Classic. Getting Randy Arozarena, as good as he is, to see him having that fun, not DHing, making a big catch in left field, not just hitting well. You see the personality. To me, that helps grow the game worldwide. Isn't that the goal?
Yeah. So to Adam's point, it's more playing hard and less celebrating. But all these teams, I think, have clauses, for the kind of daredevil clauses in the contracts that you can't do skydiving, you can't race motorcycles or things like that in the off season. So apparently, you shouldn't celebrate either. But
my wife has the same contract with me, so.
okay.
But I really wonder, like when I see my son buying that Shohei Japanese jersey, is there more of a market, Adam, for cards from country for a lot of people? Would Puerto Rican set of cards or a Dominican set of cards or a Japanese set of cards, would that create a whole new market? Almost similar to what we were talking about with the college markets.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think too, like, Shohei Ohtani is never going to be on another national team. Like, he's never going to be, on another country. So it's like him getting the Japanese jersey shirt, like he can wear that forever because it's never going to go out of style, because it's not like you're getting an Angels Ohtani shirt and, he goes to, wherever he goes, to San Diego or the Red Sox, or he goes to the Yankees or wherever, Blue Jays or whatever team he goes to. You're never going to run into that issue where your shirt that you have is now, you can wear it because it's your shirt, but it's like, it's now out of date. Like, and I think that's one of the things with, the World Cup, with national teams, like all these types of things, like, within soccer, and I mean, it's a little bit different, but like within soccer cards, that's why I kind of see the national team cards as a little bit more important, because like within soccer specifically, like the culture of soccer is that you move around and you go to different teams all the time. So it's like when you get, you get the Dortmund Holland card, or you get a Dortmund Holland jersey. Now he's on Manchester City, and it's like, who knows if he goes to another team when his contract is up, or he gets sold or loaned or whatever. So yeah, I think the national team sets, like, you're always going to, that player will more than likely, I can't really imagine most or any players switching national teams, like, because there are within US soccer, there are some players that have like the Mexican heritage, so they can choose between Mexico or United States. I don't know if it's necessarily like that within baseball, but like I do think that like those national sets, like I said, they're not going to be playing for another national team. Because once they choose, they can't really switch, and they can't switch because it's their nationality. But like, I think that those sets would be cool as well.
I look at Fanatics saying they're growing this 10x or increasing marketing 10x, and there's only so many ways to go other than international. So I think international has to be a big part of this pie. Without revealing anything you may or may not know, Dr. Beckett, I mean, clearly that seems to have to be an important part of the Fanatics game plan moving forward.
Well, if you increase your marketing, I mean, the reach of a lot of American kind of programming is global anyway. But I'm just impressed with your son. Instinctively knew to pick the variation T-shirt.
Yep, it is
the one that's the road less traveled, the one that's going to catch somebody's eye, and to Adam's point, is going to be timeless. It's timeless in a way that captures that moment. Whereas, when he leaves the Angels, which it's very likely that he will, that's going to look real dated. The Japan thing is going to look like that was a captured moment that is timeless.
He'll connect that with going to that game forever.
Right. That's another point. Good point.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I found at the World Baseball Classic to be unique was just, it was 7 games of baseball put into one game. And so it was common to see pitching changes in the first or second inning. Now, it was a very slow brand of baseball. They were on no pitch clocks or anything like that. But the excitement in the stadium. Now, would you guys like it if there was bands and horns and drums at regular games, or is once every 4 years enough? Dr. Beck?
Doesn't bother me. I mean, I just think, you have to figure out what's it going to be. Is it going to be like golf and tennis, or is it going to be like, enthusiastic sports? So bring it on.
Absolutely. Bat flip your way all you want. Adam?
Yeah, I do think it's like a national sport type of, environment. So I do think that it almost has like a novelty to it. So like, I don't necessarily think it would be a bad thing to be at most games, but it's like, I don't necessarily think it would be as popular like for some fans going to the games, to be honest.
You don't think a Brewers game on a Tuesday night the band could play? Danny, at the game, were there any national team cards available for purchase? A great question. Not that I saw, but I will say it was very heavily jersey. The stores were, as far as a regular baseball game where you might see a lot of different things. This was mostly jerseys and shirts.
Yeah, but
Actually,
see, that's
sorry,
Fanatics as well.
exactly.
Right.
Most likely Fanatics. And Fanatics is building their base, which started with caps and shirts, jerseys, apparel, and they're going to broaden it. So, that's a customer for them. So it's a potential customer for us.
And
Yeah, and
that's
I actually got one other thing. Like, I it's not necessarily sports card related, but like when I was in grad school, I took I was in one of my marketing classes, and the professor, the one thing that I will, probably the one quote that I remember from all the time that I was in grad school is the professor said that sports teams are not really sports teams; they're actually just fashion brands. Because you look at like the top teams, like a lot of their popularity isn't even because people like the team, it's because they like the branding. Like, the New York Yankees, like the New York Yankees hat is like sort of like an iconic logo. Same with Red Sox, same with a lot of other like Los Angeles Angels, same with like the Raiders, for example. Like there are iconic brands that are that are more of a brand than they are maybe even people that are fan of the sports teams. And I mean, also, like, if I think for like the Shohei Ohtani Japanese shirt example, like if I saw that shirt out in public, I think that would be a really cool shirt. Like I think like it's not something that you're seeing every day, so it's definitely like a cool. I don't know if it's necessarily like a. I think it would be cool to see in public. That, to be honest, like, and I think that kind of goes to the like sports teams being fashion brands rather than just sports teams for the most part.
Well, if you're a Seinfeld fan, one of his favorite routines was, "We don't root for teams, we root for laundry." So I will take that on that. Live with Brad. I like the Texas Rangers because they are the Texas Rangers. Their branding is horrible. Yes, I guess you like the team in your city, even if you don't like their name. But I think that's one of the nice things about the World Baseball Classic. Now, let's talk about the hobby implications. Does somebody playing well in the World Baseball Classic, would that make you pay more or less for a card, or is it just kind of reinforces what you may have already thought of a player? What do you think, Dr. Beckett?
It didn't make you pay more or less. It makes you seek out that card. And if that card has not been repriced, you're probably picking it up at whatever it was. But some of the dealers will be repricing their cards to reflect the latest if they see a move on some player. So, and you got to be careful because, a week later, that guy, there may be no demand for the same person. So if you try to goose it, sometimes you'll miss out. So there's probably some price equilibrium there when there's, somebody's hot in the moment. Again, there's two schools of thought. One is don't sell it, and the other is sell it while you can.
Adam, is it more like spring training stats or something we should take seriously?
I think it'll be interesting to see how these players who are playing in this game, how they start out their seasons. Like if they start out playing better than some of the players in spring training, because like the spring training games, like sure, maybe they're a little bit competitive, but like this, I feel like the tournament itself, like it's, they're turning the dial up to 11 when it comes to a lot of these players. Like, so I'll be interested to see sort of if it turns out to be like the, during the All-Star game with the home run derby, like if these players maybe turned it up a little bit too much too quickly and they start out the season slow, or if they come into the season and they just kind of continue the play that they've had. I think, there may be players that, that maybe people haven't heard of that eventually like will get a little bit of shine during this tournament. But I mean, for the most part, like all the good players that are playing in the tournament, people sort of already knew that they were good, like the Trouts, Rosarena, people sort of, he's kind of on the fence, but at the same time, like, the desire for these players, I think there are some of the best players, so it's not like I don't think anybody's getting caught off guard necessarily by any of the players playing. But like I said, it'll be interesting to see sort of when we go into the season, how these players play, and maybe if that affects any prices as well.
Mookie says, I have seen Ohtani prices rise for sure since the WBC. I'll admit I haven't checked specifically, but Ohtani's also, I believe, won MVP for his pool in the first round. So he's not just playing well, as Adam said before. I mean, both sides, and we all know how good he was, but on this stage with this many eyeballs, it's amazing there's still any runway for him, but maybe we're just seeing the beginning of it, like you said, Adam, and we're looking at an all-time great. And maybe the only thing that separates that is just more playing time and more moments. So it's just U.S. Sports Cards. Good morning, all. I was wondering if Dr. Beckett could change one thing about the hobby in 2023. What would it be? Dr. Beckett, other than my sense of humor, what would you change in the hobby? How's that for off-the-cuff general question?
I'll catch you. Yeah. Unequivocally say that I'm not able to do that. But I'm hoping, again, we're in a mixed market. So I'm not hoping that prices will go up or down. Some are going to go up, some are going to go down. But what I'm changing is probably, and again, I don't want to increase production a whole lot because I think we've got retail equilibrium at least where there's stuff on the retail shelves. I just want the one thing I want to change, I want to have more collectors at the end of 2023 than we did in 2022. That's the main thing. If there's more eyeballs, more interest, that will mean more dollars. That it's contagious when people are having a good time. And so I hope that's the big story at the end of 2023, that Fanatics marketing efforts paid off in terms of increasing the number of people in the hobby, that the National in Chicago has record attendance, beating all the others, including Anaheim, more than 30 years ago.
God, I can't believe Anaheim's been that long.
Yeah, I was there and I was younger.
Yeah, I was younger too. So the World Baseball Classic actually speaks to that. I mean, this is Fanatics expansion. Yeah. I mean, my son's a 12-year-old Pokemon fan, and now he has an Ohtani jersey. That is very directly related. So I was shocked at the great behavior of the fans. The noise, it didn't matter who you were rooting for. All the fans seemed to bond around the World Baseball Classic. And the civility and the fun, was really made the experience part of what I enjoyed. I also enjoy, and this is my transition here, a lot of hobby social media and content creation, but not everybody always plays, with the same niceness or even the same etiquette of just loving thy neighbor. So I know, Adam, you had a situation specifically that you wanted to bring up that I'd love you to explain for people.
Yeah, sure. So I've seen a lot of discourse over the past couple weeks about making sure to tag people and estimating prices. I mean, specifically Eric Whitehead, who is collectibles guru, who does collectible guru, I think that's his name on Twitter. He does a lot of breaking news types of posts with cards that are being pulled. And over the past couple of weeks, there's been a little bit of pushback on some of the content that he's been making, just because there was maybe missing tags, or he hadn't been tagging people, or had been using content from other creators. And I mean, I think it's a conversation that if you're a content creator, it's important to tag people. I'm sort of in the middle on the fence here. When it comes to it's not, I feel it's not as important as people are making it out to be, but I think it also is important because it's for breakers, for people kind of creating content on social media, the engagement in their accounts is sort of the business. That's sort of the important part. So it's if a breaker or someone pulls a card, I think it's important for if someone's making content around that card to then tag the account, because like that's, if you're a breaker, that's sort of how you're running your business. Like the promotion of that card, I think, is important for a lot of breakers when it comes to like being able to promote their breaks, or showing that, they have certain cards that they pulled and trying to get more customers and stuff along those lines. So yeah, I think that like I said, there's been discourse around that type of stuff. And like I said, I think it is something where people should tag the people that are pulling the card, like if it's a breaker, or like if it's on Facebook, showing the original post. Like, I mean, I definitely have fallen into a situation sometimes where it's like, I don't tag people, like, but for the most part, I try to do my best to make sure I'm tagging everybody, or at least like if I'm showing like an Instagram post, to like keep their Instagram name in the post itself if I'm going to be talking about it. So yeah, I mean, from my perspective, that's sort of what I've seen. I think it's important that we kind of maybe just discuss sort of like other types of social media etiquette, and kind of, because I think right now the story of sports cards is being written on social media. Like I think that, with like Dr. Beckett, with like Beckett Magazine and like other types of hobby publications, like that story had been written in like magazine and written form, but like now we're seeing a big transition to like a more digital world. So like the story of sports cards right now is being written on social media, and I think maybe we all need to try and work together a little bit more to try and paint the picture of our industry, being a little bit more cohesive, to be honest. Cause like, I think that there can be a lot of like infighting between accounts on social media. And I don't think it has to be that way. Like, I think if we all work together, cause that's all we want is to grow the industry. So it's like, if we all work together to show new people coming in that, you can come to our industry if you're into sports cards or you're into this type of thing, and people can see that it's a place where everyone is welcome. And, but if there's, fighting in between accounts or fighting on social media, it gives the hobby in some ways a bad, it's a bad look in sometimes, but I understand where people are coming from. Like I said, I'm sort of on the fence here, to be honest, but like just in general, like those are kind of some of the things that are happening and some of the things that I see just in general, I guess.
Dr. Beckett, I'm curious for you, when you switched into content creation, kind of as a learning curve or decision about how you wanted to approach your shows, what did you think positive? Did you think neutral? Did you think you just do what interests you?
Well, we're talking about etiquette. We're not talking about illegalities, breaking the laws. I hope we're not even talking about dishonesty. We're just talking about maybe not giving full credit. And it reminds me of traveling in the NBA. This Euro step thing, it's not in the rule book. But the NBA has not told the officials to crank down on traveling because it promotes the athleticism and the highlights that are seen every night. Okay. And so what Adam is talking about is perhaps adding friction to some of the people who want to just play fast and loose and not give credit. I agree, it's not good. But is the NBA or anybody want to crack down on it when it's allowing for more easier, less friction to get things out there and to propagate and to grow? And so that, I think that's the whole thing of social media, is that if it's bridled, that's not as good as if it's unbridled. And so I'm with you, Adam. It's poor etiquette to borrow or take something and pretend as if it's your own or your discovery. There ought to be proper attribution.
100% agree. U.S. Sports Card says social media drama seems to be wild west, and I'm okay with that. Some people do it for fun, others do it for money. It is the wild west a little bit. I'll agree with that, and that's not specific to the hobby. YouTube, for anything right now, I'm always reminded by a good friend of mine that no matter how many views you think you get on YouTube, there's a snake eating a cricket somewhere with 10 million more.
Well, there in the wild west, there were gunfights. And you had the fastest gun, and then you had a gunfight, and you got killed by the other guy who was faster from the other town or that was coming through town. So nobody's dying here, but there are showdowns and a lot of posturing. And so again, Adam, I'm with you. I think proper etiquette uh, sometimes is ignored.
Yeah, I think too, like, unfortunately, like in a situation like this, the post in question probably got more engagement because of the drama sort of that it has created, rather than like if there had just been tagging that had gone on in the first place. And I think it's just unfortunately like, you know, I try to use social media to enjoy content that I like, but sometimes I get kind of enthralled in sometimes I get enthralled in like the drama on the internet, to be honest, because it's just like it's just interesting. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is about it. Like there's interest and there's eyeballs in it at all times. It's, you know, it's one reason why, like, you know, the Jersey Shore, for example, like that show is one of the best. I think it's one of the best shows of all time because it was just like it was so outside of the life that I lived. Like, so it's interesting, and there was just drama all the time. And it's made like why people like reality TV, just because like whether the drama is real or the drama was created by the producers, like edited that way, people just enjoy the drama. So it's like, you know, if and I think I talked to Mike Summer recently, and he's another great content creator. And one of the things that he said that I really enjoyed was that, like, you should just if you're a creator and you enjoy creating, just do that and don't worry about creating content that you think other people are going to be interested in, because like at the end of the day, if you're just seeking the dopamine of people liking your posts or commenting, like eventually that's going to run out. And if you're seeking the dopamine of creating the content itself, you'll always be able to create stuff. And that's a little bit something I added at the end there, but I think that is something, in my opinion, from a content creation perspective, that I try and follow myself, is like, if you're creating content, like create content that interests you, not what you think will be interesting to other people. And just one other thing, I think some people, that is what interests them, is like getting people to talk about it. So, you know, it's both sides of the coin there, I think.
And speaking to the point, everyone who publishes on social media is effectively a citizen journalist with obligations for honesty and attribution when possible. You don't have to, but it will serve you well. And that's from Mookie. I just like to say, yeah, I mean, in general, treating people well, you know, comes back several times over. I think we can agree on that.
We're in a giant reality show.
Right.
Yes. And we know some of the other actors, and there's good guys and bad guys. There's heels. So it's not, but it's unscripted. It's unscripted.
Kevin Jones, yes, I love my lo-fi YouTube channel. Minimal views, but it's fun for me. You know, Kevin, we'll give you a shout out. We'll make sure people tune in. We'll get you some viewers, because that's the idea. You know, I think when we talk about growing the hobby or growing the market, we're talking about people who love what we love, and just sharing. You know, who doesn't want to share what you love with other people and experience it?
Right.
And so, you know, Cooter, welcome, Cooter, says growing the industry is now we need growing collectors and participants. Well, that's an interesting comment. I guess that's just how you separate the industry from the collectors and participants. But I will say the bottom line is we need more people that are interested in the cards, and the companies are there to support them, hopefully in some way or another. And with all the companies that came in, I think the ones that give the best customer service value are going to be the ones that stay around, because I think with the social media, there's a lot of watchdogs and a lot of commentary. So that's why, you know, it's important to have the attribution if you're making a comment or you're reporting on something.
Well, the negativity sometimes sells, but it's kind of like my wrestling analogy. If you're a heel in one of the wrestling federations, you've got to be interesting. If you're a jerk, you got to be a jerk in an interesting way. If you're going to lose, you've got to lose in an interesting way. You can't just be. There has to be some substance there. Otherwise, you don't have a following, and so you just can't be a. So you have to have some shtick, and so a lot of these people, Adam, we're talking about, have a shtick. They have something that sets them apart, and they're rubbing some people the wrong way, a lot of people the wrong way. But that's their sense of being a heel, I think. Maybe it's just the way they really are. But most of these wrestling guys are not heels in real life.
And that's a huge point because I think not all hobby content creation is real life either.
I think they're playing a part. They have a persona.
Yeah. And my weakest point in content creation was when I lost my patience with somebody in the hobby. And I will say that my etiquette there was not what I wish it would have been. But it did. Something rubbed me the wrong way. And you know, I think this person enjoys playing a heel. And I think you're right, Dr. Beckett. Into the point in the comments is it was probably on me to ignore it. And if less people engaged in it, there would probably be more positivity that we could all share. And this is an interesting comment from the card hobbyist. Everyone has what they enjoy for sure. I show off raw cards and binders because it's what I like to collect, but it's probably cringeworthy to those who only like slab pristine graded tens. Well, that's the point is, you know, you enjoy what you enjoy. And, you know, that's nobody here is going to argue with that. And
in the social media world, Danny, if half the people love you and half the people hate you, that's a recipe for success. What's not a recipe for success is 10% of the people love you, 10% of the hate you, and 80% don't care.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
I think one of the, like
polarizing is sells.
Yeah, and I think too, like, I know one thing that, like, if you listen to, you know, people who kind of give advice on social media, I think one thing that they say, like, about like comments and stuff like that is like you should like ignore the comments, and like it's not necessarily that you should if you're getting comments, that should be actually something that you should maybe strive for, and maybe not strive for it in a negative way. And I mean, a tip for me that I've used sometimes is like, if you want to post something negative or you want to leave a negative comment, just type it out and then just erase it, because like you're getting the same maybe hit a dopamine from like the just typing it out and erasing it than you would be typing out and actually posting it. It's one extra action that, like, if you just type it out and you get it off your chest, it's like venting to like your significant other or something like that. Like, you don't always necessarily want maybe you don't necessarily always want their advice when you're venting about something, but just saying it and getting it off your chest is helping you in a way, like, just, you know, getting away from sort of some of the negativity. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't necessarily think there's tons of people that are negative kind of in this community, but like, if hypothetically, if you're running into a scenario where you see someone tweet something that you don't like, just write out the tweet and then just erase it. I've done that hundreds of times, to be completely honest, and it's helped me, like, because at the end of the day, it's just, you know, I think with social media in general, you don't get what you think you're getting by leaving a negative comment on somebody's post, like, or commenting something or leaving saying something nasty. Like, you're not helping you, and all you're doing is adding to maybe the negativity in the situation itself, I guess, if that makes sense.
Adam, you would be an excellent guest host if Rob Gerard, the sports card therapist, ever has the flu, because you're giving sports card therapist advice that's sound. You know, so there's a show for everybody.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And also, sorry, one other thing. I think too, like, to the card hobbyist, like, there are hundreds of different ways that people can, thousands, there's infinite ways that people can enjoy this industry. So it's like, if you enjoy doing a certain thing, just because other people don't enjoy it doesn't mean that it's not good. Like, if you enjoy the raw cards and binders, like, then just do that. Like, I think but if you enjoy buying PSA 10s, like, then do it that way. Like, so I think, and it goes to kind of the conversation of the whole of our show exactly today. Like, there are hundreds of different ways that you can enjoy this industry. Maybe you enjoy national team cards, or maybe you enjoy college cards. There's no wrong way to really do it, unless you're going out of your way sort of to maybe cause negativity. But like, in general, like, if you are enjoying opening packs or anything, like I said, there's just hundreds of different ways you can enjoy the hobby, and everybody enjoys it differently most of the time.
Well, the whole point of etiquette is to be kind, I think. To be appropriate, to do the right thing. And so I include that in etiquette, Adam, that if you're raining on somebody's parade, they bring their stuff. It's like, and again, there's a number of excellent dealers that when some kid or whatever walks up to your table and says, I got these cards for sale, and it's junk wax, you just say, well, I already haven't, I'm not in a position to buy that, or something, but to say, you got absolute junk, you're an idiot, it's just, be kind, be thoughtful, and maybe the person will come back and get into the hobby and realize, but you don't have to be the one that destroys them.
Right.
Absolutely. And, I think when it comes down to it, anybody on this show, anybody in this chat, if we had a box of cards and a table, we could sit down, open packs together and enjoy ourselves. And that's my favorite part, but I'm a big dork, as you guys know. Dr. Beckett, what do you have on your schedule hobby-wise coming up? If I know you, it's sorting.
Sorting cards. I've got a strategy now of when I make 3 piles or 4 piles. One is for me, one is for Rich, one is for ComC, and a big pile for eBay. So.
And Adam, I know you had something special coming up. I want to make sure you have time to get that in.
Yeah, so I've been trying to develop a new long form YouTube show. I at least plan to every week do 2-hour-ish live streams. I usually it'll be after Hobby Hotline. So like today, I'll be going live on my channel after this at Heroes for Sale. And then one of the days throughout the week, it's been Wednesdays the past 2 weeks. We'll see if that changes. But just got like the YouTube show that's going to go live after this show. So if anybody is interested and wants to come check it out, we got some other topics and stuff we're going to be talking about on there.
Absolutely. And even though it's on screen, I just put it in the chat as well. So for everybody, who joined us today, I want to say thank you. I assume that we will see you in Adam's chat room in a couple minutes. And for Bench Clear Media, thanks for having us. And Dr. Beckett, Adam, appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
You too, Danny.
Thank you.